So welcome, 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 Heather. We so appreciate your remarkable leadership, as always. At Setsi, we begin all things by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Heather, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me here. First of all, I'm quite honored to be among your group of esteemed people that you talk to on a regular basis. My name's Heather Scoffield. I'm the CEO of the Canadian Tax Observatory. And if you've never heard of that, that's completely understandable because it's brand new. It's just been around for a couple of months. I was appointed at the beginning of September, and to lead and build this. It's a brand new think tank, and so we're just, it's just me for now. But I hope me and a board, and I hope to keep building it. I'm on a mission to make it bigger and better and much more impactful. A little bit about me. I was a journalist for 30 years. I was at Reuters and then the Globe and Mail and then the Canadian Press and then the Toronto Star, mostly in Ottawa and almost always in that zone, writing around politics and economics, business and policy. So where all of those areas mix. Most recently at the Toronto Star, I was the Ottawa bureau chief and the economics columnist there. And then a couple of years ago, I went over to the Business Council of Canada, where I was their chief strategist. And then I decided to dig in hard into the policy area and went over to the Canadian Tax Observatory. It feels like a really exciting place to really explore, public opinion and dig deep into research and kind of branch out into new areas.
What an incredible career trajectory and remarkable breadth of lived experience. And just so you know, John Schnell, Matthew Mendelson, and Bill Young are some of my favorite people in the world. I've been working with them for years. So really excited to see this work be placed in the hands of someone with such great depth and understanding of the issues. So once again, congratulations. So my next question is, what's inspiring you right now, or what's keeping you up at night?
Well, I'll start with the inspiration because I like to keep it positive, you know. I've spent a long time. There were many points during my career as a journalist, in particular, where I was involved in covering financial crisis and hard times, around the world. The financial crisis in Latin America and Asia in the early 2000s. The great financial crisis that started with the subprime loans in the US and spread here and spread around the world, the pandemic, and so on. And it could sound really depressing, I think, to always be on the edge of rough times. But in fact, I do draw a lot of inspiration from being in contact with people during those times because people have so much ingenuity, and when you talk to them about how they're confronting their situations, I mean, sometimes it is pretty awful. But inevitably, I will come across somebody with a fantastic idea about how to make things better, and that's really what drives me. It's finding those gems of stories about how to triumph over hard times. And okay, it could sound a little bit of like I'm talking about fairy tales here, but I've done it enough times to realize that it's not just a one-time thing. It's not just luck that I come across these stories. It's actually there's a deep ingenuity, I think, among people in general, a willingness to think big in hard times and find new ways of doing things. And here we are again, right? We've got an economy that's being rocked to its very foundations by the changing world around it, and it's going to be rough. It already is rough for many people in Canada, and I have complete faith, though, that we will find better ways of doing things. And so I'm on the lookout for that, and that's what keeps me going.
Incredible. Thank you. So my next question is, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work? And what are some of the approaches that you and your colleagues are taking to hopefully overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
So, I mean, the Tax Observatory is squarely focused on tax policy, as the name would suggest. And tax policy is very entrenched. I mean, taxes, the think tanks knew, but tax policy, of course, has been around for millions of years. Not quite that long, but very, forever. We've always paid taxes. The system is very entrenched. And the thing is with taxes, I mean, our system, it changes at the margins over time, and it gets more and more complex, but it doesn't necessarily get better. And better is always in the eye of the beholder too. So I think, as I said about my work trying to figure out how to design a better tax system, I've got to think really clearly about what that means. It would be great, the ideal tax system, if it is pro-economic growth, it would be great if it were also improving equality in our society. It would also be great if it were simple. So those are the three-legged stool that everybody in tax policy has. All of those things kind of work against each other on the surface. And so my challenge really is to find solutions where you can have growth, equality, and simplicity all at the same time. It's very complex, and I think one of the things I'm discovering as I start this position is, tax policy on the surface of it may sound boring, but as soon as you scratch the surface, everybody has really deep feelings about their taxes. Mostly they don't like them. And so I've got to overcome that and encourage people to think big. We pay taxes for a reason. Not just because the government tells us to, but because they use that money to buy to pay for all sorts of things that we rely on and that we actually really appreciate. Or we pay taxes because the government wants to use taxation as a tool to push us or prod us in certain ways. And so, maybe, encouraging people to think broader about why we do that and how we do that it's challenging for sure because on a day-to-day basis, you're just thinking like, why is my paycheck smaller than it should be?
I couldn't agree more. Thank you for all that, all those actual insights. So my next question, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work you'd like to amplify to our community of practice?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's early days for me, so I'm just setting up a research agenda right now. And my first goal is to make sure people know we exist and to engage with me in conversation um, on a productive level. I think there's right now there's an awful lot of yelling at each other out there in the public sphere, and I really hope and my goal with the Tax Observatory is to be very research based and fact based, and so hopefully take some of that animosity out of the discussion around taxation and what it means for people and how it should be designed. So my immediate goal there is to get out there in the public. I've started writing again quite a bit, which I love, by the way. And so I've got a Substack going. I've got some LinkedIn pieces going. I was in the Toronto Star recently, and really hoping to engage with more and more people around this discussion. And then I'm just getting the research agenda up and going. Hope to have some pieces out there of solid research in the new year, and then take it from there. So those are the immediate goals.
That's absolutely incredible. Well done. Well done. And once again, very clear. So my second last question is, what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like to you and your colleagues?
So I think my ultimate, my dream here for the Tax Observatory is twofold. One is to the first goal, which I kind of alluded to in my initial objectives right now, is to really drive a vibrant conversation, and have all sorts of people pile in, and have a very an ongoing smart discussion about how we can have better fiscal policy at the provincial level, at the federal level, at the municipal level, and to really, really get that going and to carry it through and to have the Tax Observatory as a platform for that discussion, kind of to build a community. And secondly, I mean, the ultimate goal, I guess, is that community comes to a conclusion about, all right, this is really here's where we find the balance, and policymakers listen and they change the system accordingly. That's a lot of hard work. That's down the road. But I think one thing leads to the other.
I couldn't agree more. So my final question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our community of practice?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess my call to action is to people, even if you feel like you don't know a heck of a lot about tax policy, you pay taxes. So think hard about that. Think about why and why you're paying taxes. Think about where your money goes, and think about whether it's fair, and then engage with me and engage with the Tax Observatory about your thoughts on that. And there's lots of places to engage. As I said, I've got a Substack, I've got the LinkedIn, I've got X. I'm having trouble with my Blue Sky account right now, but I will be able to, I promise you, turn that around. It's part of the problems of being a startup. I've got too many things on my to-do list, but I'm getting there. Anyway, that's my call. Like, please talk to each other, talk to me, and think harder about how your money is used and the benefits that you receive in return.
Thank you so much, Heather, for all those actionable insights, your remarkable and visionary leadership, and your tenacity. We're really excited to see how this goes. And obviously, it's going incredibly well so far. So, once again, thank you so much for your leadership. And we'll close the way we began the session, this conversation, by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Heather, thank you so much for all that you do for so many.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.